Welcome, folks. This is Quizzing in America. I am Jeremy Conman coming to you from the Cardinal Cave in Chicago, Illinois, about a mile north of the friendly confines of Wrigley Field on opening day at that fine establishment. And today I am joined by a very special guest, a guy I have known now for about 8 years. We first met at a convention in Vegas back in 2017. He is the founder and owner, I guess, would be the correct
Yeah.
title of the
I typically say founder and senior quizmaster. Senior quizmaster. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Noah Tarnow from, well, you're in the Bay Area now, but originally
Yes.
an East Coaster.
Yes.
And the big quiz thing is really all over the country. And before Noah tells us a little bit about the big quiz thing, I just want to say this. I played the big quiz thing when I first met Noah in Vegas in 2017, and I was in awe. And this is before anybody was doing games where you answered on phones or devices or anything. And I've always been a purist, a pen and paper guy.
I know.
But when I saw the big quiz thing, I was like, okay, this is a game where you need the devices and you need, like, I mean, there's so many bells and whistles, and it's the closest thing you'll ever get to being on like a game show without actually being on a game show. It's creative, it's fun, and it's really made like, I mean, you can do it with groups of all sizes, but I think big quiz thing is almost more fun the larger the group. So like
Hmm.
if you got a company out there and you're or convention you're putting together and you need something for a large group, the big quiz thing I think is one of the best things you can do and one of the most entertaining things. And with that said, I'm going to
Thank you.
say hello to Noah, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask you like when you started the big quiz thing and
Yeah.
how it got from what it was whenever you started to what it is now.
Well, that was a hell of an introduction, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So I have been running this. This year marks 23 years of the big quiz
Wow.
thing. Yeah. So cast your mind back to 2002. I was at a crossroads, as many people are in their late 20s. I had moved to New York to be a magazine editor. Actually, more, I wanted to be a rock critic. And I realized I didn't like interviewing people. And, it just wasn't for me being a critic of any kind. And I drifted into magazine editing. And at the time, I was a freelance editor. I was also doing some book editing, and that career was kind of going nowhere. And I always liked entertaining. I was a theater geek growing up. I had done improv in college. So at that time, I was trying stand up comedy. So I did stand-up comedy. That was sort of the tail end of my 3-year stand-up comedy career. I put career in very, very bold quotes because I was not a good stand-up comedian and I didn't make any money. And I think I was realizing that like both of these avocations weren't really doing much for me. So I was trying to figure out what was next. And coincidentally, at the same time, a dream came true and I was on Jeopardy.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, see, but this is the thing, man. People in our world, in the trivia world,
Yeah.
I say I'm on Jeopardy, and like I know so many people are on Jeopardy. So when I just tell my average, I was like, "You were on Jeopardy," and I'm like, everyone's been on Jeopardy, but no, they haven't.
That's very true. In the last
Right.
month, I've known people that have been on Jeopardy, Pyramid, and Wheel of Fortune, right? So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
But I'm always like, "Well, I lost on Jeopardy." Like, well, at least you were on. I'm like, "Yeah, but lots of people are on." Anyway, I currently have two people who work for me who both won 3 games each. So
Okay.
yeah, and I lost one game. Anyway, so I went on Jeopardy. I lost. I got Final Jeopardy right, but my betting strategy was wrong.
Oh, yeah. That
And
is definitely
yeah,
something that I always, when I see people that make bad wagers, I'm just like,
yeah.
oh, I wish I knew them before they taped, so I could have like given them a tutorial on
Oh,
this wagering strategy.
I
Yeah.
have never prayed for a time machine more than in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not much of a gambler, and but hey, when I met you at Ticono, I was so proud of myself. I spent that weekend in Vegas and didn't gamble $1. But it kind of explains, like to this day, why there's never a wagering element of the big quiz thing, because I just hate that. So anyway, but I lost, but I was inspired, and I was a semi-regular at a pub quiz in New York. I am so embarrassed, I can't remember the name of the bar. It was an Irish bar on the East Side, and at the time there were very few. I mean, like pub
Oh,
quizzes,
yeah.
bar trivia
Absolutely.
was virtually unknown in the United States in the early until I don't know late 2000s. So I
Yeah,
think I tried.
I would say, what I started like 18 years ago, and even at that time it was hardly known. So I would say it was in the 2010s is when it
Yeah,
really started to
that
maybe take
that
off, right?
that makes sense. So I think I tracked down all 5 bar trivia events in New York City. So as a semi-regular at this one event, it was an Irish bar, and I was saying, you know what, I love trivia. I've always loved trivia. I grew up I would read, the People's Almanac and the Charles Panatti books and the Book of Lists. And I remember I had a Billboard's book of top 40 hits. It was literally in shreds. I had read it so much. So I'm like, you know what? I like trivia. Let's do trivia for a living, right? But like, what does that mean? I didn't really know at the time. I mean, there weren't the big companies, nationwide companies, the Geeks Who Drinks and Sporkles and stuff. If there had been, I would have just offered a host for them. So I actually got an audition to write for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So they basically just had me write a game. So this is 2002. Now you remember how big that show was in like 2000?
Absolutely. Listen, when it came out, the first thing I did was I was calling every night to try and do the fastest finger to qualify to get on. And
I bet I did that too. I was a phone a friend once, but I steered him wrong, and I told him I was steering him wrong. And I guessed wrong. And we both guessed wrong. The answer was anyway. So I wrote like a test game, and I had talked to a few writers in New York who wrote for them. I'm like, how'd you get that job? And they're like, they just basically grabbed me off the street, man. Like they needed writers so badly. So my timing was off. They said, well, this is great, but we're actually contracting. We're not hiring. We're actually laying off. So bad timing. So inspired by that pub quiz, I said, you know what? I'll do my own trivia night. But even from the beginning, I wanted to make it more like a show. So I did my first event at a burlesque bar on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It still exists. It's called the Slipper Room. And they just said, hey, give me a Monday night. We'll give it a shot. And even though I didn't quite have the multimedia element I had now, I did in a place with a stage and a nice, and I dressed nicely. And I really wanted to make it more of a production. And I wrote it all myself. I had no idea how it worked, but I kind of fumbled my way through it. I gave away a $200 cash prize to get attention. I handed out flyers at those 5 other pub quizzes. One bar screamed at me and kicked me out. And I got a full room, and I made more money than I made in 3 years of doing stand-up. I made like $70. So I said, well, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. And so I was doing biweekly every other Monday night at that bar for a few years. Eventually people started saying, hey, will you come do an event for my party? Will you come do an event for my first corporate event I did was a bank, an Australian bank. Someone in the New York office had come and he said, will you come do our holiday party? And I said, sure. And, they rented a bar and I did it. And over time, I moved to a bigger venue, but then stopped doing so many public events. And I was doing public events in Boston as well. And in LA, I was kind of farming it out to other people. I was going to Boston every month. And over time, the public events kind of faded away. I just got tired of having to fill a seat every time. But more than that, I really realized that the way I was doing things, I was building the multimedia elements. So a guy who was sort of my stage sidekick, this guy, Eric, he's known as EDP. He still hosts for me in the New York area. He kind of came to me and said, hey, like, we need to put everything on a screen. We need to have the text on the screen. We need to have the videos on the screen. You do the audio stuff, but we should add more to it. So he really pushed me into producing it more like a show and giving it that multimedia element. And over time, we've built that and perfected that. And I really started realizing that the kind of stuff I did was better suited to corporate and private events than public events. Because if you come to one of my events, on average, my event is flat out easier than your average pub quiz
which is fine.
Hey, there's a room for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a big believer in trivia should be treated like any other art form. There's different brands, different kinds. You don't want to dumb it. Do you ever hear this, Jeremy? You tell people to come, hey, come to my pub quiz. Well, no, I already go to another pub quiz.
Yeah, I mean, but you can go to more than one.
But
right?
Sorry, this is a great band. I already listened to another band. I just think we need to build this idea that it's not all the same and they're different brands. So there's a term I use, figure outable. I like to say that my questions are less about, digging up the obscure facts, how many jelly beans are in this jar, who was the MVP in the National League in 1942 or whatever, and more about just putting the pieces together and figuring it out. And I think that's just more interesting to me. That's just the style I like to write. I also think it suits the multimedia better, and it just suits the corporate private crowd, which is less of a self-selecting crowd, not people who make an effort to go to the bar and play trivia because that's their hobby. People who maybe are like, oh, I guess I'll go to this. My office is doing this, or I'm forced to go to this, or my friend's having this party. So I started realizing over time that the more I pushed in that direction, the more this was better suited to corporate and private events than public events. So, here we are years later. I moved out to the Bay Area 10 years ago. I have hosts in 7 cities, including me here. New York is still, probably a third of our events, but we do events all over the country. My Quizmaster team is great. They travel a lot, and we keep building it. And I like to tell people I kind of fell ass backwards into running a business. Like I wanted to do trivia. No one was there to hire me to do it, so I hired myself, and I became an entrepreneur. I kind of learned by doing. And obviously, I brought in people to help me and help run the business. I still want to be more the creative guy and less of the business guy, but it's my baby, so I'm always going to work on everything.
Yeah, you got your hands
Yeah.
kind of in all the pots.
Well,
And just
it's
for the record, I
yeah,
just want to say Mort Cooper from the
yeah.
World Series champion St. Louis Cardinals was the 1942 NL MVP.
Wait, did you just look that up? Did you just look that up?
But
Or did you know that?
I knew the Cardinals won the World Series. I couldn't remember if Cooper or Musial won the
Oh,
MVP, so I had to
Jesus,
look
man.
that up.
You are a nerd. Oh
Yeah.
my God. I once was, yeah.
I'm
I know.
also a diehard Cardinals fan and baseball fan.
Oh,
so,
okay. Well, I knew you were a baseball fan. I
Yeah.
was once it was this weird event. It was like both a quiz and a speech. It was from some like festival. And I was explaining like the style of trivia I like, and the example I used to give is like, I don't think an uninteresting question would be something like, what's the capital of Burundi? And a guy just yelled out whatever it was. And I'm like, all right, that was a rhetorical question. So yeah, that's sort of what I do. And then to the digital answer system, I had kind of been wanting to move off paper for a while, just because, I'm like, look, by then it was like 2013 and I want to move into more corporate space. And I think something slicker will be good. But the actual thing that pushed me into it was my dad's 70th birthday party. He had a party at a winery in Napa here in California. And he had all his friends in a wine cave, and he wanted me to do a quiz. So I did a quiz about the life of my father. So all these people playing, they've all known me since I was born, so they're not taking this seriously. And B, they're all drunk on wine and it's dark in a wine cave. So their handwriting was unreadable. And I remember like flying home from that going, that's it. I am building an answer system. And I couldn't find an existing system that would work for me. So I found an app developer, I hired him, and it's really helped us push our business forward. Although we're in the closing stages, we're completely redoing the system. So there will be a new system.
Well, I have no doubt that it's going to be even more bells and whistles, and
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, we're finally incorporating automatic scoring, which 10 years ago was the idea, but I don't think the technology could handle it at the time. So we're finally incorporating that. So we're reaching the finish line of that. Hopefully within the next month or two, that'll be rolled out at actual events and not just testing among the team. So
very nice. And so with the big quiz thing, in a standard big quiz thing event, or is there not a standard? Like how many rounds, how many questions are there typically an event, or does it vary based on the size and the group? Or
I mean, it varies, but we do have a couple standards. Our standard I call 3 rounds plus. So, and this is of course in-person events, like everyone starting in 2020. I did a ton of virtual events, and I still do those on occasion. So 3 rounds plus, we have the first 2 rounds are about 10 questions each, but the centerpiece of each round is a 4-part question. And that's when we usually have a video or audio gimmick. So it'll be 4 questions of the gimmick. You'll see an example when we play our test game here. So we do 2 rounds of that, 10 questions each. Then we take a little break. Then we come back and we do a trivia interlude. And this is an either or game. So everyone puts down their phones and they stand up and I say, all right, we're going to play an either or game. We might play Shakespeare character or pharmaceutical drug. I'm going to read a name. If you think that's a character from the works of William Shakespeare, put your hands on your head. If you think it's a pharma drug, hands on your hips. Once everyone's put their hands where they think their hands belong, I will reveal the correct answer and everyone's wrong will sit down. Then we continue with more names. You can coach your teammates, and we switch up the categories twice during it. We keep going till 1 person remains. And when the last few people are there, I mean, if it's a small enough room, we have them come to the front of the room and stand back to back. It's very dramatic and it's a lot of fun. And then that leads us right into our lightning round, where we use the answer system again. And that's 10 more questions this time, just 10 seconds between each question. Then we take a real quick break, catch up on scores, and then the finale, where we bring up representatives from the top 3 teams to the stage or the front of the room. We have various buzzer devices we use. We do have a digital buzzer as well. So we started with that in virtual, but that's handy. If I travel far, I don't have to bring buzzers with me. People could just play on their phones. And that's the top 3 teams. And you buzz in, you could tag out to teammates, and first team to 2 points wins the game.
I played that. I
Yeah.
played that during the pandemic. I played a few big quiz thing games, and yeah,
Oh,
it
right.
really is it's like I said in the intro, it's as close to a game show experience I think as you'll ever get
Well,
if you
thank you.
don't actually get on a game show, right?
Yes.
Like because you have these different rounds, and then you have like the end. It's like the bonus round, right? It's
Yeah.
like the fast money or the
Yeah.
whatever the final
It,
Jeopardy, and yeah,
exactly. It pushes the game show idea. Like we're really, for a while, although I changed my mind about this, I'm like, let's not call it trivia. Let's call it a quiz show. And I'm like, nah, you need to call it trivia because frankly, when people are searching for a trivia night for their office or their event, we wanted them to find us.
yeah,
So,
sure.
but it's the idea like trivia as a game show. And that was sort of the thing from moment one was like, how do I make bar trivia, which I loved and I still love, more of a game show experience, more something that feels like, frankly, is worth paying for your corporate event. And
And
that's
it,
always the direction we push in.
And it sounds like from the get-go, I mean, you obviously your background, you have that entertainment persona, and it sounds like from the get, because when I've seen you do even virtual or live games, you are, listen, I'm a schlub, and when I say that, I mean, you know, part of the reason I do what I do is I don't like necessarily putting on a suit and doing,
Right.
I
Right.
show up to my gigs, and I'm not wearing sweats or anything like that,
Right.
but I wear a nice pair of jeans and maybe
Yeah.
maybe a shirt that buttons down or a shirt with a collar.
You're ahead of 90% of America these days. So don't feel
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Well, that's true. But when I've seen you do your thing, it's like
Yeah.
watching a game show host from when I was a kid
Yes.
in front of me, right? Like
Thank
you
you. Thank
have
you.
that, you have
Yes.
everything from the suit to the microphone to the
Yeah.
whole nine yards, right?
My hosts have a dress code. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to zhuzh it up, and that's sort of the idea. So yeah, the sparkly jackets are part of it. I own 4 sparkly jackets. I'm very proud of them. Switch them off depending. I have personal mood like this event is this type of event, so I'm going to wear the Bordello jacket, or this event is this type of event, so I'm going to wear the Luxor jacket. That's the kind of nerd I am.
I was curious how many jackets you had in the
Yeah,
so
4.
it's really only four. I'm actually
Yeah, only
that
4.
many.
Yeah. I have to
Okay,
criticize you, Jeremy. You said something that I have to push back on. You said a
sure.
virtual event or a live event.
Oh,
No.
they're all live.
Yes, all events are
Yes.
live. So I'm
Yeah,
very careful saying virtual or in person. So yeah.
that is actually a much better way to put it. So
Yeah.
thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, they are all in fact live events, which
Exactly.
is part of the joy of doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Anybody could get a box of Trivial Pursuit and just have a whatever.
I mean, there's
Um,
something to be said for, I discovered these during the lockdown, like online games you can play. And
yeah,
I've even played with the idea, I think maybe a couple clients of like making a video with the host and the game, but that's a different experience. And that's not
yeah.
really what I do. And I assume it's not what you do or what you're interested in doing.
No, it is
Yeah.
it is absolutely not. I love the live aspect. I love interacting with
Interactive.
people that
Yeah.
are playing.
Sure.
Yesterday, I did an event yesterday, and I've done an event for this company for 3 or 4 years running now, and they like to do kind of like your intermediate
Interlude.
thank you games, and sometimes I struggle with words. So I did one, and I wanted it to be accessible to as many people as possible. And so we invite anybody who wants to come up to the front of the room to compete in this game. The last person standing is going to win. And I come up with a question that has a ton of answers.
Okay.
And the last if you give a correct answer, you stay in. And if you give a wrong answer or you repeat an answer, you sit down. And I
Cool.
go down the line, and then I come back and I go down the line again, and I go down. So the category was, and I said this one is going to have both a reality television and a sports element to it.
Cool.
So I wanted people from different areas to be able, whether
Yeah.
you're, and I said,
Multiple ways
name,
in. That's what I always
yeah.
like. Multiple ways into an answer. I like that.
So the question was simply name any player who has been inducted or will be inducted this summer into the Baseball Hall of Fame, any player in the history of baseball, or name any woman who has been a regular cast member for at least one season on any iteration of The Real Housewives. And so it's a very two
Yeah,
very different.
sure.
But the first guy gave some like very obscure Real Housewife answer, and I was like, wow. Okay. I didn't see you going one Real Housewife and two going that obscure right off the bat. And then
Right.
when I came back to him the second time around, he went with like a random Hall of Famer. And I was like, okay, so you have both ends of this, and so you're
Yeah.
going deep cuts both times through, and then the third time he couldn't come up with an answer, and I was like,
That's weird.
how do you come up with the two answers you came up with, and now you blanked,
Right. I
and it
assumed
was
he had a strategy. He's like, I'm going to do the deep cuts now, and then later the low hanging fruit. But wow,
yeah. Well, I mean, I
that's
think you should
amazing.
always take the low hanging fruit first, because then other
Probably.
people that need that low hanging fruit
Yeah,
can't
it's a good
get it.
point.
If you have deep cuts, but it's also the first time out giving a deep cut just to say like, "Hey, I know what I'm talking about," and scare the rest of the people, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was fun. The person that it ended up coming down to a woman naming Real Housewives cast members and a guy who was naming Hall of Famers, and the guy naming Hall of Famers outlasted the
Oh,
Real
okay.
Housewives, but it's close. They both went a good distance. But I like those little games in the middle, and they
Yeah.
can break up events, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so when you're writing, like, how often are you still writing questions, or do you have such a database now that you're just going back and putting in stuff from the database?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always pulling from the database, and my greatest hits I've used again and again and again and again because it's a new crowd, although obviously a lot of repeat business, and I keep track of what this audience has heard before, et cetera. No, I'm always, I mean, I'm not writing as much as I was when I was doing, fortnightly public events, but some clients want custom material about their company. So you got to write that. I mean, as you get older, there's an aspect of this job that gets harder because how do you
Sure.
keep up with culture? I mean,
Yes,
I will tell you,
that is
it is a real, and I tell you, having listened to 2 episodes of your podcast already, you are much better at that than me. Like listening to you try to name Kendrick Lamar albums, I was done at 1, right?
yeah.
And I have had and I was Mr. Pop, like Pop Culture Jeopardy, right? When that came out a few months ago, all these people are saying, "Oh, Noah, you should go on that. You should go on that." I'm like, "No, I should not go on that." 1999 me should go on that because I would have uttered in 1999. Now I get murdered because 2/3 of the show is in the 21st century. And I guess I know more than the average person, but not more than the average Jeopardy contestant. So
yeah, I want to apologize, by the way, for
yeah.
not remembering that Kendrick Lamar did the Black Panther soundtrack on that episode.
Okay.
I still feel bad about that.
I'm sure people are very upset about that.
I'm still upset about it.
So it's, keeping up. Like I'm doing an event for people in their 20s, tech people in their 20s. What do they know? What old movies do they know? What old TV shows do they know? What are the things that the bands now, what are the songs that have broken through enough that it's legitimate for a quiz, that it's not just music nerds, right? Like I hear things and I try to pay attention. In fact, my podcast, my friend and I do, the whole point is like keeping up with stuff that's going on. Every week we look at something that is happening that's new, whether it's a band or a phenomenon. We're looking at Mr. Baseball. We're looking at the torpedo bat tomorrow. We're talking all about the torpedo bat. Yeah. I got to read up on that tonight. But so keeping up with that is hard. And then you get stuff like, well, this crowd is all international people, so they don't know American pop culture that much. Or this event is, we want some Boston history, or we want some stuff about wine. And yeah, I could dig into my archives, but like something that worked 5 years ago might not work now. It might be out of date. It might be forgotten about. It might be, I've been doing this long enough. I've asked questions that would not be a good look to ask in 2025.
Yeah, no, times change.
Times change and standards change.
And
yeah,
you do have to keep up with that. I like to improvise a lot during my events, and I ask for categories and come up with questions on the spot. The event that I was talking about last night, I actually had 2 requests that I was unable to really satisfy. Somebody wanted a Dragon Ball Z question, and unfortunately I know nothing about Dragon Ball Z, so I have to learn. And somebody wanted a question about the TV show Killing Eve, which I know a little bit about, but I just didn't feel like it was anything question worthy, so I said, well, let's come up with something else. But that's I'm gonna have to start watching Killing Eve. There's so many good shows out there that I haven't.
There are, and the more I watch, the more I need to watch. That's great that you do it that way. I met a British quizmaster once who said he does it sort of that way, and he says, I think of myself as a DJ. Like I read the room and I come up with a question that way. Now I could never do that. I'm too much of a planner, and of course the multimedia element precludes that. But like, hats off to you. Like Killing Even Dragon Ball Z, I got nothing on either of those.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd bomb on that. And also I'd just be uncomfortable. Like I said, I'm a planner, I'm a writer, I'm an editor. So yeah, but again, getting back to like there should be different kinds of trivia. There should be the DJs and there should be the meticulous planners. You know, there's
Yeah.
room for both. You know, the more our culture gets balkanized, the more it metastasizes into 1,000 pop culture has consumed everything. The more there's room for different approaches to playing around pop culture and making a game out of it.
So I'm curious. You mentioned sometimes going back to your like greatest hits, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh, do you have like if they're in the game that we're going to play? Don't feel the need to say them,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm just so curious. What like one or two of your like favorite like what's one of the questions you've had? I
Sure.
I have a couple that I've probably asked more than anything in and I'll tell them to you in a second. But I'm curious if you have a couple that you want to throw out there.
I do, and this one I ask it all the time, but I'm not going to ask in the game here. And I will preface this with I've been using this question many years, but something very similar showed up in Learned League a year or two ago.
Oh
So
wow, okay,
I did it first. I love Learned League.
fair enough.
You're going to know this, but I like this because it's multiple ways in. All right, an NHL game between the teams in San Jose, California, and Winnipeg, Canada, is reminiscent of which work of musical theater?
That would be the Jets versus the Sharks and West Side Story. And yes, that is
Very good. Yeah. And I
yeah.
love it. Like you said, like, so you could be a hockey fan, you could be a musical fan. I mean, it's easier if
Yeah.
you're a hockey fan, I guess, but so multiple ways in, and I like it for that reason.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, those are fun questions. The two questions I think that I've asked more than any other question are one with billions of them worldwide and on every continent except Antarctica. What is the most common bird in the world? And here's a hint: you are probably not very far from one right now, at least in some form.
Chicken?
It is chicken,
Yeah.
which most people will have. It's either it's in their fridge or
Yeah.
we're down the street from a McDonald's. Like
Yeah. In
somewhere
some
there's a
form.
chicken, right?
Arguably,
In some
McDonald's
form.
is a form of chicken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Well, that's true. A chicken McNugget may not be a form of chicken, but
Yeah.
somewhere near you, there's probably a kitchen
It's
or a restaurant that has some chicken.
something
Uh,
relating to chicken like
yeah,
substance. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how many people will still go with crows or robins or pigeons or
Yeah.
whatever, and that's fine. But I like it because it's one of those questions you hear the answer and you go, ah,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. I should have gotten there. And you're kind of more mad at you if you miss it than you are at the host
Mhm.
for asking it. And the other one is just because it's a child, Dr. Seuss, a childhood favorite of mine, and I think everybody has some experience with Dr. Seuss. Is that he wrote the book Green Eggs and Ham on a bet that he couldn't write a book using only
Right.
50 words, which he
Right.
won that bet because there's only, I believe, 49 or 50 words in the book Green Eggs and Ham, all of them being one syllable, except what three-syllable word, which
I
is the longest book in the book,
I've
the longest word in the
heard.
book.
Oh, everywhere,
Oh, you're so close. I will not eat them here. I will not eat them there. I will not eat them
anywhere.
anywhere.
Was that a
Anywhere.
Learned League question as well?
It's definitely come up in
Yeah,
places, but
because
I've
I
been,
think I got that right, but
yeah,
yeah,
I have been asking that for 18 years,
that's
and
good
I
ones.
think I've asked that more than any other because you have kids or you were a kid.
Yeah,
Like at some
yeah.
point, you had exposure to that book, and even if you haven't, you can kind of go through some of the word, and you can get there even if you don't really know. Most teams end up getting those right, but it's always fun when teams don't. So
I think
anyway,
I think the green eggs and ham question I've asked as an easy one, beginning of an easy round is I am Sam. Those are the first three words in what 19 whatever book.
oh yeah,
I mean, there's a room for
sure,
easy questions.
yeah,
So the chicken question, one of the things I like about that is even if you get it wrong or you get it right and you knew it cold and it was easy, now you have a fact to share at
yeah,
parties and with friends,
yeah,
like you got this actual, not tangible, but like actionable benefit to your life. I joke that the questions like what's the capital of Burundi or who's the MVP and what the year or how many jelly beans in the jar, like the correct answer is always the same. It's who cares?
yeah.
The best questions, the answer is that's fascinating. So
Though I did do a round this week for an event. I did an event on April Fool's Day, and
mhm.
so I had a round where every question I asked, it was like stupid answers on Jeopardy, right? So every question I asked, the answer was in the question. In 1979, the legislature of the state of Wisconsin added what nine-letter word to the flag of Wisconsin? Well, the nine-letter word is Wisconsin,
Wisconsin,
right?
yeah.
And the hardest question in that round by far was what is the six-letter name of the capital of the African nation Guinea-Bissau? And, if you
Is it
figured
Guinea?
out the theme of the round, it's not Guinea, it's Bissau. So
Oh, okay. There
it
you go.
it it, it it's that's a random, like, nobody really knows that. But if you
Yeah,
figured
but
out the theme of the round, that all the answers are in there, you can figure out it's either Guinea or Bissau. And I think only one team went with Bissau. Every other team went with Guinea. But I made sure to say six-letter capital,
right.
so you knew it wasn't
That's good. And
Guinea-Bissau,
but
right?
how it could be Guinea. I mean,
Yeah.
also look, you want to reward the one nerd in the room who knows every African
Yeah.
capital. You
Sure.
want that person. The last time I played a pub quiz, a bar here with friends, the theme of the audio round was like bands whose names begin with S. And I knew this song by an old Australian punk band called the Saints, and they put it in there, and I put it down, and the guy's reading the answer. He's like, and I can't believe it. One team knew the Saints. And like, team's like, hey, Noah. And like, that's a good feeling when you're the one person in the room who knows the stupid hard question.
I'm always impressed by that. One of my favorite audio clues to do that with is I will play like one-hit wonders from the 80s, especially if I have an older crowd. And one of my favorite ones is At This Moment.
Yeah.
What did you think
Yeah.
I would do at this moment? And that. And so I play that song and I ask you to name the song for a point, the artist for a point. But for that one, I always say this song hit number one because it was very popularly used in a famous scene in a classic sitcom from the 80s. So if you can name the sitcom, I'll give you the point as well.
Yep.
And it's this. I don't. Do you know the sitcom? Do you
Oh yeah,
remember it?
Family Ties. That was a big moment.
That is a big moment. That's when Alex Keaton kisses Tracy Ellen, who was played by Tracy Pollan, who's Michael J's actual wife, right?
Yeah.
For the first time, they kissed to that song, and so now people will get the name of the song. People will get the TV show. There's usually not more than one team in a room that can tell you
that
who
knows
sang
Billy
that
Vera
song.
and the Beaters.
Billy Vera and the
Yeah.
Beaters.
Oh
absolutely.
man, 80s pop music, that's a sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like to ask that because if you have an old enough crowd, they all remember the song, they all remember the TV episode. Almost none of them remember who actually had a hit with that song. So
it's kind of
I
believe
that one.
There's an interesting story. Like it was a minor hit a few years earlier, and some producer of the show knew it. And like, one of these weird pop music stories where like the band had broken up and because it was put on the TV show.
Back into relevance because they used that song and it became a huge, briefly. But that song had been out for a few years and then it was like, oh, now it's going to be number one because we used it in Family Ties. So so anyway, you have a game that we're going to, at least, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's a full game or if it's a, abbreviated game.
A game. It's an abbreviated game. So, as you said, and as I reiterated, I'm sharing my screen now, we like to do a multimedia thing. So we have the questions on the screen and we have, text, we have video puzzles and audio puzzles. And of course, since we mainly do corporate and private events, we incorporate, the client's logo, or if it's a birthday party, photos of the guest of honor, stuff like that. So listeners, you can't see it, but Jeremy can sort of see a generic.
And I may give some description or what have you. And I've seen Big Quiz Thing before, and I will tell this to anybody who's listening, who's thinking about doing it. If you have an event and you want some glitz and you want some oomph behind it, the Big Quiz Thing is absolutely worth the price of admission.
Well, thank you, sir.
I really do love your product, Noah. I always have. Like, I think when I met you in Vegas after I played it, I came up to you and I was like, that's amazing.
Thank you.
It was so much fun. And it was just, I was like, I can't believe you have turned what I consider to be, pub trivia into like an actual like game show that you can just entertain really groups of any ability and any size is the beautiful thing about it, right?
That's the idea. Yeah. Well, thank you. I you get it. So thank you. All right. So what we're going to do here, I said I do the 3 rounds plus usually. We're going to do 2 rounds. We're going to do one standard round of 10 questions with a 4-part question. And then we're going to do the lightning round. And then we're going to do the oddest buzzer-tastic finale ever with 1 player. And I thought about, Jeremy, having you log into my answer system and play that way. But I listened to your conversation with Johnny Goodtimes. You guys are adamant paper enthusiasts, so we'll do it.
I mean,
there's a place for
like
both.
I said,
there's a place for both.
I am a paper enthusiast, but when there are games that are done right, I think it's fine and not. But you know what?
Look,
That's good.
I'm not going to back away from this, but for
Yeah.
these purposes, you can yell at the answer.
All
So,
right. Well, there's nobody else playing, so
right.
that's fine.
Typical of it. So this is just a warm up. So what I have here is like, while people are getting settled in a room, I run a loop of questions on the screen. The quizmaster doesn't even read them. They're just there and people can yell them out. It's just something to keep people's minds occupied and pack in a little more content. And then we tell people how to log into the answer system, which we're not doing here. And then when it's time, we welcome people to the big quiz thing, the Quizzing in America podcast edition. Jeremy Cannon, give yourself a round of applause for being 100% of the audience. I am your quizmaster, Noah. Here is the ultimate test of useless knowledge. I will ask the questions. Jeremy will yell out the answers, and you can yell them out from wherever you're listening on your iPhone, your Android, your Zonophone, what have you. I will reveal the answers after he gives his guesses. And then at the end of the round, no one will submit anything digitally. Instead, we will move on to round 2. I will reveal the answers at that time. And round 2 will be our lightning round. 10 more questions, but things get faster. And that leads us into the buzzer-tastic finale. So here we go. Round 1, 10 questions. The Quizzing in America edition of The Big Quiz Thing begins right about so close.
I'm looking forward to it, and the graphics are terrific.
Yeah.
By the way, so.
Thank you. We're always trying to spruce them up, but here you go. Round 1, question number 1. Lots of people live in India. Lots of people live in China. But what's the most populous country that isn't in Asia? What are you saying?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm in it. Isn't I think it's the USA. I'm almost.
It is the USA. Correct. This is my favorite round 1 question, number 1 question, because it's just a little like the Guinea-Bissau kind of questions.
Yeah.
Oh, duh. And then a joke I've used 8 million times is when I reveal the answer, I say, yeah, we're number 3. We're number 3. So then after the first question, I take a moment to advise people not to cheat. I have found, maybe I'm naive, I have found that cheating is not a big problem because
yeah.
You agree?
I 100% agree. Like,
yeah.
I've said this before. I've had more people accuse others of cheating
than
I have people cheating, right?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't ever happen. It doesn't mean that I haven't ever caught people cheating. I have, but it happens so far less frequently than a lot of people like to think, even on games.
What's the point? Yeah, what's the point of cheating? Like, it's pointless, and we shame people. But of course, at the big quiz thing, we offer credit for wrong but funny answers. If you check a box in the answer system that says smartass points, we read those answers to the crowd. If people laugh, we count it as a correct answer. If you can't be smart, be a smartass.
Well, that's beautiful, because since I am both the answerer and the audience,
yes,
no matter what I answer, I can laugh at it and get the points.
What I like to do at like birthday parties or especially bar mitzvahs, when a kid is the guest of honor, the kid is the arbiter of whether a smartass point is funny or not.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I really like that. And of course, this is great because, if it's an office, they do their inside jokes. The answer is, Bill from accounting. I have no idea why that's funny, but if they laugh, great. All right, so number 2, debuted in early 2013, but didn't become the world's most downloaded software until 7 years later in March of 2020.
Well, I better get this right, because I believe we're using it right now. A zoom, 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 and a boom, boom.
A zoom, zoom. You figured it out. This one is figure-outable.
This one's figure-outable.
Indeed. There are 2 questions in a row that's sort of self-referential, but that's the way I like to do it. By the way, Jeremy, you're hearing the sound all right?
Oh, yeah. No, I
okay,
absolutely
am. Just making sure it's okay. Number 3, what word, added to standard dictionaries starting in the 1990s, is denoted in the scripts for a certain animated TV series as annoyed grunt?
Well, this is a great trivia question, because if you miss it, you're probably going to make that word.
Indeed.
Because Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. I prefer asking this during the finale when people buzz in and say it out loud. You always can be, you can always tell a bad player or a bad team spirit when someone rings in and goes, dough. Like, no, you're supposed to say it like Homer. No. But that's okay. It's still correct. All right, number 4, what one-syllable name is shared by 2 current major pro sports teams? They play in different sports. They play in different cities. but both in the same state.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, there you
So
go,
I was
buddy.
going one way with this, and then I was like, wait, aren't there multiple things? And then you got to the last part of it, both in the same state. Because at first because we just were talking about favorite questions, and you mentioned the Jets and the Sharks, and I was like, well, there's the Winnipeg Jets and there's the New York Jets, but they are obviously different sports, one syllable names shared by two current pro sports teams. But they're not in the same state. However, in your home state, or at least current home state of California, you have the Los Angeles Kings and the Sacramento Kings, a basketball and a hockey team.
Very good.
Cities, yeah.
To give you an idea of what kind of sports fan I am, which is not a sports fan, most of the sports questions I write hinge on grammar and language.
Well, I'll tell you this.
I'm just not a sports fan, so.
I'll say this is also one of my all-time favorite questions, and this is a great sports question because everybody on the team can participate, whether you have great sports knowledge or not. There are, and it used to be 3, but there are 4 professional sports teams in the Big Four. So NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL. 4 team names, so don't ignore the city, that start with a unique first letter, a letter that no other team name starts with.
Wow.
One of them is the New York Yankees. The only Y is the Yankees. Name the other 3, or you could give however many you want, but it's great because everybody can name names.
Sure.
And then as soon as you can come up with another one with the same name or with the same letter, you're like, well, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And the reason it used to be 3 is because Cleveland changed the name of their baseball team from Indians to Guardians, which took away one of the only 2 I's, and the New York Islanders are now the only I. And then the other 2 are both football teams, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings.
Wow.
But eventually, it's a great question because it involves teamwork and everybody gets to participate.
Yeah.
And it's figure outable, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really good team building event type question. I like that. Perhaps I'll steal it. All right.
Yeah, by all means.
Don't worry about it. All right. Round 1, number 5 is a 4-part question.
1 part, 2 part, 3 part.
So we're going to play our favorite audio puzzle, which I call 3 degrees of music. So what happens here, for each part, A, B, C, or D, I am going to play for you, one immediately after the other, 3 audio clips. I want you to name the 3 artists. I don't care about the songs, just the artists. In each case, the artist names are phonetically linked. For example, and I have their pictures on the screen for those of you listening, I might play Rick James, which is quickly becoming unknown to younger people. Then I might play James Taylor, who's becoming almost as unknown. And then I might play Taylor Swift, who is the opposite of me.
Although some of the Swifties will know James Taylor because Taylor was named for James Taylor, right?
I didn't know that. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. No, her parents were big fans of James Taylor, and that's why she's named Taylor. So
yeah, and most people don't know this, but James Taylor was named after Rick James. So there you go. No, anyway, so that's the idea. So name the 3 artists. Their names are phonetically linked. And the way I normally do it, just so you know, is I give 1 point if they get all 3. I give half a point if they get 2. And if they only get 1 or 0, I get nothing. But of course, smartass points apply. So here is 5A. Listen to all 3 and see if you can name all 3. Here we go.
Watching all our friends fall in and out of old clothes. This is my idea of fun. Playing video games.
This is what you'll get. This is what you'll get when you met her. They say she's in the class 18, stuck in her daydream. Been this way since 18, but lately.
Okay, what do you say?
Okay, so the artists are phonetically linked, right?
The artists. I don't care about the song titles, just the artists.
Okay, so I know that the last one was the A-Team by Ed Sheeran.
Right.
And I'm so bad at audio and music, so I'm trying to think of what links to Ed Sheeran. It's not necessarily always before and after, right? They're just phonetically linked.
Well, they're phonetically linked, so it would link to most likely Ed here. The end of the second, Rick James, James Taylor, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, okay. So who would end in an Ed? Oh God.
I am shocked you don't know that second one. I got to be honest with you. I am shocked.
I'm really bad at naming that tune, especially if it's not like hair metal.
It's just because the song was like ubiquitous among our age group about 25, 27 years ago.
still
Band was
listening to-
ubiquitous. The band was ubiquitous among our age group and nerds, but not necessarily nerds like you. And not nerds like me. I was never a big fan, but
I was listening to Bret Michaels and Poison even then. I just held
That's
up
all
my
right.
Bret Michaels pop, by the way. All right.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
good.
tap out. I know people
All right.
listening are like they know them all, but what are they?
You heard Lana Del Rey, Radiohead,
Oh,
Ed Sheeran. Lana Del Radiohead Sheeran. There you go.
okay, yeah. And so Radiohead is one of those bands I know facts about, and I
Yeah.
don't know anything about their music.
You know, I
Yeah.
was when I moved to New York trying to be a music critic. That was in the late '90s when Radiohead just conquered the world, and
Sure.
they put me to sleep. But they were everywhere, so I got them. I got them through osmosis. You know,
I was not a fan. I had a friend Troy who loved them, and I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what you see in them, but
we all had a friend Troy who loved them. Everyone.
Yeah.
Else. Yeah. All right, let's try B here. See if you know these 3 artists.
They always wanna come, but they never wanna leave. Exes and they on me like
All right, any guesses?
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that like that was Kings of Leon at the
Correct.
end, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so Kings of Leon at the end. Now the Lady Marmalade, I thought that was Patti LaBelle. So
It's
now I'm trying.
Basically, it was Patti LaBelle's family band called LaBelle, but
Okay,
I will
yeah.
give it to you for Patti LaBelle. Yes.
So now I'm trying to connect Belle and Kings.
Yeah. Do you recognize that song at all?
I do.
Yeah.
And so it's bugging me that I both recognize the song and have clearly what the entry is and the exit is.
Yes, you do.
And it's not coming to me right away.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's bad on me. I'm so bad at name that
Well,
tune.
this is where teammates would come in. You know?
Yeah.
And
So
that's the thing. It's like when I show people content before an event, if a client wants to look at it or even that warm up, people are like, these are so hard. And they forget, like, you're not playing solo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're supposed to play with a team, right?
Right.
So yeah.
So-
I
so
like
you-
to play solo to challenge myself, but I'm totally tapping out again. What is the
So
middle
you
one?
would get LaBelle, you would get Kings of Leon, and your teammate might know her name was Elle King. LaBelle, Kings of Leon.
Name's daughter, right?
It was Rob
I
Schneider's
think-
daughter. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally
And she went to my summer
do
camp.
know who she is, and yes, and I
Yeah.
totally recognize the song, and I totally did not pull her name. Bad
All
on
right.
me.
That's okay. But you got half a point for that because you got 2 of the 3. All right, let's move on to C.
I've been in the valley, you ain't been up off that porch now. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Until the battles I made, it's always seems so unhappy unless they got a war.
All right. What do you say?
Okay, finally, I'm able to put one together.
All right.
Little Nas X at
Yes.
the beginning.
Yes.
Middle one, I was totally lost on at first, but then you played the last one, which is CNC Music Factory, and I'm like,
Correct.
what's going to start with X and end with C? And then I'm like, oh, wait, there's a group called XTC or
Very
Ecstasy.
good. Ding.
And so, yeah. So
Good job. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's how it works. Yeah. I love XTC. Great band. All right. And finally, our last one. Here we go.
Love will keep us together. I can be happy the rest of my life with a single girl. Stoner, I'm stoner, I'm stoned. I'm stoned. I'm stoner, I'm stoner, I'm stoned. I'm stoner, I'm stoner, I'm stoned. I'm
That made you laugh. What is
Yeah,
it?
well, because I knew right away that it was Captain and Tennille.
Of
level
course.
2. And then I'm like, Cinnamon Girl, but that's Neil Young. But how does that go with Tennille? And then I'm like, oh, Neil, duh.
Yeah.
Captain and Tennille Young. And then I heard the last one, and that's when I laughed because I'm like, well, I mean, there's multiple rappers with Young in there. Like, I know
Yes.
it's not Young MC.
Right.
I'll
I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue. He's a stoner. Sorry. He repeated it. There's a-
Young Jock. Is that one of
No.
them? I don't know.
His name is
Who is it?
Young Thug. Young Thug.
Young Thug. I do know. Yeah.
Captain.
He would have
and
been on my
Tennille
list of
Young Thug.
potential Youngs to name. But
Exactly.
You know.
All right,
Yeah.
here we go. That was 3 Degrees of Music. Moving on to number 6. A legendary ad slogan that originated in the 1950s was "Does she or doesn't she?" Meaning, does she or doesn't she blank her blank? Fill in the blanks.
You know what? This is a great way to ask this question because I'm almost positive that it is dye her hair.
Correct.
trying to remember the product. Is it Miss Clairol?
I think it was Clairol. I'm not 100% on that, but they say only her hairdresser knows for sure. Yes, color her hair or dye her hair. I mean, I like the blank questions. I think they're fun, and especially a question like this. It doesn't happen as often as I like, but occasionally we get a client with like, yeah, you know, we're a fun crowd. We're going to be drinking. We're all going to be adults, so make it as risque as possible. So I got my little collection of. Yeah. Oh, I've gotten some dirty smartass point ones for this one. You can use your imagination. There you go. So yes, color or dye your hair. Number 7. What 2 U.S. states show up on the list of the 1,000 most popular names for American baby girls?
Okay. This is total. So Virginia, I would think, would have to be one of them.
Virginia is one, correct. So half a point for that.
It seems like this should be super, super obvious to me. Like at first I was like, Madison, no, that's a capital. So you have Florida. Oh, Georgia is probably.
Georgia, correct. Yeah. Well done. Yeah. Yes, Georgia. What I like about this, first of all, a lot of people guess Dakota. There's no state called Dakota.
Oh, that's a good one.
And yes,
technically a state, I guess.
But people think more like newfangled names. So they do Arizona and Montana, but Georgia and Virginia are the classics, you know? So
yeah.
All right, number 9. In 2001, number 8. In 2001, what Asian country launched a gastro diplomacy campaign here in the USA, nearly tripling the number of American restaurants serving its cuisine?
Oh, this is super fun.
Yeah.
And I really don't have any idea.
Well, as someone who was...
But here's my logic, right?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like Chinese restaurants have been ubiquitous in the USA for much longer than 2001.
Yes,
so it can't be Chinese, as much as I love Chinese. And I don't think it's going to be Japanese either. I think it's going to be something like Thai or Vietnamese. I don't think it's Indian either. I think it's going to be Thai or Vietnamese, and I'm trying to decide which way. Because I know, growing up, I never had Thai food. And then there's Thai restaurants all over the place now. And I don't think there's Vietnamese restaurants all over the place, although there are way more than there were. So I think I'm going to go with Thailand.
You thought that one out perfectly, Jeremy. That is exactly the thought process. Because remember, like we're cognizant in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, growing up, were there any Thai restaurants? Now they're everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, not that I think the first time I ever had Thai food was probably the late 90s, early 2000s. That
makes sense. Yeah. And they declared war on our stomachs and they won. Number 9. And number 9 is definitely one of my favorite questions of all time. Identify the popular work of musical theater. Its title is a Northeastern slang term for extremely. This one definitely.
This is very timely too, as it was one of the most nominated films at this year's Oscars, and it will probably be the sequel, one of the most nominated films at next year's, because it was wonderfully done, because it was wicked.
It was wicked awesome, dude. Yes. These days I'm asking this question less because I have a different wicked question. I say, what movie recently in theaters was based on a musical, which was based on a book, which was based on a movie, which was based on a book?
Oh, that's also a great way to ask that. Yeah.
And not a hard question, but again, I'm more in the market for easier but fun with,
those are both fun ways to ask about something that people love and it's very popular.
Exactly. So. All right, and that takes us to the final question of round 1. This is a 2-point question. So a little math and a little movies for you. Between 2001 and 2018, 4 movies were released with the title Ocean's Blank, where the blank was a number. What's the total sum of those numbers?
All right.
I'll give it to you within 1.
Oh, I'm going to get it exactly.
Oh, look at this guy. He's better with movies than with music, friends.
Yeah, definitely better with movie. I'm okay with music trivia. It's the Name That Tune that my team do not do well with.
Yeah.
Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and Ocean's 13. So if I add those together, I get 31, 33, 36, right? Because that's basically 12 times 3. And then we had the Ocean's 8 with my favorite actress, Sandra Bullock. So 36 and 8 is 44.
Very good. 2 points. Excellently done. You got, out of a possible 14 points in this round, you got 12 points. Well done. I'm not going to do any repeats because you don't need them. We're not playing that way.
Fair enough.
That's the end of round 1. So I try not to take a break after round 1. I want to keep the action going. So as soon as they've submitted, I do my little end of the round video. But I do take this moment to talk about the prizes. What is at stake? Now, I have found that prizes aren't as important as a lot of people think in trivia. the honor and glory of winning is enough, but we do invest in big quiz thing victory medals.
Oh.
So each of my quiz masters has a big box of these. They're fun. People love them. I feel like it's a little marketing, they hang it in their home. They see it. They're reminded of what fun they have. Maybe they hire us again. But of course, if a client wants to pitch in a real prize, we work that in.
Sure. But you're right. The prizes are so not relevant, especially for like private events. Like people are doing it for the glory and for the fun.
And look, there's so many, most entertainment doesn't give you prizes. Why should we give people prizes, right? We got to make a living too. All right. Submit your answers. And then I usually do the answers and I reveal smartass points. But now we're going to do the lightning round. All right. So Jeremy, it's basically going to be the same. No 4-part question, but the clock is ticking. After I ask each question, I will wait only 10 seconds before I move on to the next question. After all 10 questions have been asked, I normally don't do repeats. Instead, I do a 1-minute countdown. Teams must submit their answers by the end of that countdown, or we digitally submit them for them. And yes, smartass points apply. Here we go. Lightning round begins right now. Question number 1. They differ by only 1 letter. What are the respective 3-letter stock ticker symbols for beer maker AB InBev and auction company Sotheby's?
I believe that would be Bud and Bid.
Bud and Bid is correct. Very good. Number 2, what current NBA team is named for an amusement park?
Wow. Why do I not know that right away? Oh, boy.
There's a reason why.
Heat, Magic, Thunder, Spurs. Oh, and Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom, correct. And this is, one of my greatest hits, but often I'll if I know the crowd will need a few more hints, so I'll say name for this country's most visited amusement park. There's ways to tweak the question.
I'll tell you right now, I'm doing an event tonight and I'm stealing this question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, steal it.
This is a great question.
Just reword it, friend. Just reword it. Yeah, no, it's a good one. I wrote this question. I remember it was a private event. It was a corporate event where, sometimes for corporate events, it's questions about the company, but sometimes it's about the staff. I have them fill out a form, like each staff member's fun facts. And one guy had worked at the Magic Kingdom. So I wrote this question about that, and he didn't know it. He didn't make the connection. The team was named for the Magic Kingdom.
I mean, it's that's great.
Use it for later. Yeah. All right, number 3. Name the animal. The power of 746 watts.
46 watts. 746 watts. 746 watts. Is that a horse? A lightning bug? 746 watts.
What's your guess?
I guess a horsepower.
Horsepower is correct. That's 1 horsepower. Oh. Very good.
Hey,
Number 4.
I did not know that.
Now you do, my friend. See, you learned something at the big quiz.
Yeah.
Approximately 53% of online dating profiles feature outright lies, most commonly relating to height or weight, income, and what third detail?
I will assume it's got to be age, right? Like
age is right. Very good. Very good. A lot of people guess political leanings, but
these days
these days, I'm sure. Just go on the right stuff. You'll be happy. Okay, number 5. In Seoul, you'll find which wealthy residential district whose name is familiar from the first YouTube video to rack up 1 billion views?
Oh, what a great question this is, too. This is a really fun round.
Thank you.
That's got to be size Gangnam style. So Gangnam.
Gangnam is correct. It is the hipster district, the Williamsburg of Seoul, Korea, or it was in 2012. Which delicious product was created in 1941 in a collaboration between Mars's Forrest Mars and Hershey's Bruce Murray?
That would be the thing that melts in your mouth and not in your hands, the M&M's.
Correct. This one is very figure-outable. People really get this wrong a lot, and man, do they bonk themselves in the head when they answer this. Mars and Murray. Because it's funny, you never stop to think, what does M&M's mean? It's just
I haven't asked it in this exact way, but I've asked basically this question before. Course. Yeah, it's a great question.
Too good a fact not to. Number 7, no brining necessary. In what sport might you use your paddle to hit a dink into your opponent's kitchen?
Oh, I was like, tennis? Why is it worded like that? No, it's not tennis. I mean, it might be tennis technically. I don't know. Not a paddle, so it'd be a racket. So yeah, no, this is the newest hot game that everybody's playing. Pickleball, right?
Pickleball is right. And of course, the no brining necessary is a clue, but I might choose not to, but I think it makes it fun.
It's always fun. It's fun to put those in there because it makes it more fun when people miss.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
I was
exactly.
giving it to you, right?
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
trying to help you out here, people.
All right. Number 8, my nephews, who are both 20 years old and are aspiring politicians and American history buffs, say this is their favorite big quiz thing question. Who are the only 2 people known to have shot someone while serving as U.S. vice president?
That is definitely a great question.
You get some good, funny, wrong answers to this.
So Dick Cheney, of course, famously
Cheney is
shot
one.
a friend in the face while on a hunting trip.
And the friend apologized to him.
Yeah, yeah. And the more obvious one that is more well known now because of the musical Hamilton would be Aaron Burr, sir.
Aaron Burr, sir. Now, this question, I probably used this for the first time 15 years ago when it was a lot easier, but, try talking about Dick Cheney to people in their 20s now.
Yeah, that's true. That's going to be a much tougher get. And 15 years ago, no, that's before Hamilton, right? So Aaron Burr might not have.
It was harder in that respect. You're right.
Easier one 15 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. It's sort of flipped which one is easier. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9. What's the common factor? A hit show that debuted on Netflix in 2022 and 2 days ago today.
2 days ago today. So today is oh, hey, yes, okay. And obviously you have to update this question depending on what you're asking.
Exactly. I got a few questions like that. Yep.
So,
I've been asking you a question about the eclipse last year. It's similar.
For those listening, if you're not listening on a Friday, this question probably is not
makes no sense.
Technically accurate.
Yes.
But this is Wednesday.
Wednesday is correct. Straight out of the goo-goo muck. And now another one that's figure-outable. And now our final question. What word is defined in a standard slang dictionary as, quote, an exclamation announcing one's arrival or some revelation? Originally a 2-note musical phrase introducing a performer.
Ta-da!
Ta-da is correct. Well done. And then I give them a minute to submit. We count down. It's always fun when you get to 10, 9, 8. And that's it.
Well,
for the lightning round.
I will say this. Every question in that round is kind of a killer question, right?
Thank you.
Because every question in that round has like something to it where if you don't know, you can definitely, they're all kind of figure out, but like half those questions, and I'm pretty good at trivia, I wasn't 100% sure on my answers to.
Right.
I was pretty confident, but there I was like, oh, I might be like horsepower. Or I didn't actually I don't think I ever put together that the Orlando Magic were named for the Magic Kingdom.
Right.
Though that makes total sense. And so I was surprised that I didn't know that just cold right off the bat and had to actually figure it out.
But like when you do the more DJ style, but when you assemble around, you want to get from different categories. So, the horsepowers for the engineering nerd and the pickleballs for the, the rich housewife, and the Wednesday one is for the kid who loves Wednesday,
sure,
to give it, if it's a team, so that you increase the odds that everyone can contribute, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right, so that's when I do the answers, and then I reveal the final scores. And as I mentioned before, that takes us to our Buzzertastic finale. I bring up the top 3 teams. Either we have our tabletop buzzer or our digital buzzer. So we're going to do a very, very bizarre and meaningless Buzzertastic finale with just one player. And also, I'm not going to have you buzz in. You can yell, buzz, whatever. That's what we did at virtual events before we built the digital buzzer. Raise your hand and yell, buzz. So the way I do it is 3 people come up. Maybe it's 2 if there's a tie. Maybe it's 4 if there's a tie. But usually 3. And they each have a buzzer unit. We introduce them. And I ask a question. After I ask a question, wait till I'm done asking. You may buzz in. I call your team name. You may answer. If you're correct, you get a point. If you're incorrect, your non-existent opponent may steal. You may tag out to a teammate between questions. Not during a question, between questions. First team to 2 points wins the game. And then we get a big winner's photo with the medals. And it's a lot of fun. All right, here you go. This is my favorite, Jeremy, my favorite Buzzertastic finale question. See if you know this. From the fat end to the thin end, what's the order of colors on a typical piece of candy corn?
I hate candy corn, so I know the colors.
You are wrong, sir. So good.
So I believe that so you said from the fat end to the thin end, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm almost positive the thin end is white, so that's going to be last. I now have to, in my head, remember whether it's yellow-orange or orange-yellow. I think it's yellow-orange-white, so that is what I'm going with.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
But remember that during a game, it's like you don't have the time to think that one through.
Yeah,
you're ringing in.
You have to buzz in.
Right. And exactly
now,
what
when
I
you
think.
buzz in, do you have to give the answer immediately, or could I buzz
You
in?
get a
and be
few
like,
seconds. You get a couple
Okay.
seconds. But
Yeah.
what I love about that one is someone will ring in and say orange, yellow, white. And then I'll wait a few seconds. Someone else will ring in. They forgot what the first person will say. So they'll also say orange, yellow, white.
Yeah.
And then the third person will also say, I mean, that has literally happened. Then I throw it to the audience and someone else says something that's been said before. Yeah, that's my favorite finale question. All right, next one. You could win on this one, Jeremy. You got 1 point. You could win on this.
Amazing.
Amazing. You could take you are in last place, though. I hate to tell you are in last place in this game.
Wow.
You're also in first place, but you're in last place.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. What percentage of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have names ending with the letter O?
Buzz.
Yes. What do you say, Jeremy?
Well, you have Donatello, you have Leonardo, and that's it, right? 2.
So what percentage is that?
3. Oh my God, I can't believe I messed that up.
What percentage is it? Come on, man.
75%.
75 is right. So, Jeremy Conman, the only player of this game, you have won the Quizzing in America big quiz thing. Congratulations.
Although to be
sir.
fair, I would have totally blown that easy.
Yes,
well,
you
not
would have.
easy, but I would have absolutely opened the door for an opponent on that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle question, which I should have known. Right, I was like so excited. I'm like, oh, I know this.
By the way, you are a player of your caliber. I might not have given it to you for saying 3.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't
percent?
have either,
yeah.
and I think rightfully so. And I was so excited that I knew it, and then I forgot to actually, in my head, think of what you asked and what the answer was. So,
by the way, speaking of nerds, I had to term that what percentage of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because I once asked that, and some geek informed me about the later joining female Ninja Turtle. Venus.
Yeah, Venus de Milo. Yeah.
So apparently the answer is 60%, not 75%, if you take out the original. So there you have it.
It's always nice when you get the but actually.
Yeah. Well, here's what I mean. It's like the guy asking the Itchy and Scratchy creator if the ribcage xylophone if someone lost their job over that. So there you have it. That's how it works. So that's a taste of what the game is all about.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's a delicious taste because it is really. I mean, you know, I talk to people that do trivia all the time. I've played trivia all over the country. I've seen so many games, and I know you're not in bars. There's no real public, although there are public big quiz thing games.
Occasionally,
you have done games for like cities or communities where it's open to the public and people can come in.
Fundraisers, you can buy tickets.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you, if you have a company out there, you know, and you are looking for something that is like unique and fun and something that people of all ages and skill levels can do and enjoy, the big quiz thing is one of the best things out there. And I know you've gone all over the country and hosted it. So the proof is in the pudding that people hire you and bring you out. And that's, you know, just, it's great. And I will say, I'm going to say one other thing. I don't want to get your head too big, but the other
too
thing
late for that. Too late.
Yeah. The other thing is, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of people were doing virtual games. I started doing virtual games right away. Noah was doing virtual games. There were a lot of people, but you were so generous, like, because you had all this like scoring system and everything. I know Johnny Goodtimes in Philadelphia, I think your scoring system. I used it for a couple of events. You were so generous with other people in the industry, helping them out, helping them figure out, okay, we're trying to do these online events and we don't want, you know, we need to figure out how to score. We need to figure out how to do things. And so thank you for that. Welcome. I know you've always been supportive of other people in the industry. And I think you kind of, I don't know, I see it as a little bit of an art form. I think you do too. And I think you really do it well. And I think a lot of times companies want to like, oh, we can just create our own trivia game. And you can. And maybe you have somebody who works for you who is exceptionally talented and will create something that is really good. But most of the time, that is not going to be the case. It's a rare exception if that happens. And when you hire a professional, somebody like Noah, somebody like myself, like some of the other guests that I've had on, you're paying for something that's worth it.
Absolutely.
So,
when clients want to do their own trivia, I liken it to, hey, we're going to do comedy night, and the comedians are just going to be people who work for the company.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that.
You know, Listen, but before he was doing stand-up, Dave Chappelle probably had a job. Maybe he was working at your company.
Okay, Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle, sure, but what are the odds he got a Dave
No,
Chappelle on
yeah,
staff, right?
I'm just saying that's going to happen once out of every 1,000
Yes,
times, right?
exactly.
Like, not even once out of every 1,000
Yeah.
times. No, go out and hire a professional and let us do what we do because we try and make it fun. I know Noah does make it fun. I try and make it fun. I think I make it fun. It's worth it. It just
Awesome.
really is.
Thank you. I
So,
appreciate that, Jeremy.
yeah.
Great.
And thank you for coming on and
Thank you.
doing this. Where's your next gig? Is it in the Bay Area or where are you?
I mean, the next one I'm hosting. I mean, we got a lot of events next week, but I'm not hosting any of them. So what are the highlights coming up? Next week we have an event for a law firm on Tuesday and a hedge fund. We love them. Oh, Wednesday every year. This is nice. We do a fundraiser for a parent teacher organization in upstate New York, actually run by someone I used to work with. So one of my guys in New York heads up there, and it's really, I mean, I've never been there, but I know about it. It's fun. The parents come out. They look forward to it every year. We've done this like 5 years now. Yeah. What's the next event I'm hosting? That's a good question, man. It's been a while.
All right, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I'm okay. I am most likely going to Mexico in July, which I'm really excited about. I've never done an event. We've done one event in Mexico, but I didn't host it. So I'm excited about that if that happens. I have an event in Menlo Park near here. They have me on a quarterly schedule, this one office. So I come out every 3 months, do an event. Everyone looks forward to it. Those are a lot of fun. I have an event coming out. I'll tell you about this. For a company, they want me there 3 days in a row. We do an alternate format I call the trivia booth, where it's basically just the finale over and over again. So I'll have my buzzer set up. All right, I need 3 volunteers. Come on, take your place behind the buzzer. What are your names? All right. Here are 10 questions, and they're on the screen, and you buzz and you answer, and that's it. All right, you won this round. You get a medal. 3 more volunteers. So I have 3 solid days of that coming up at the end of the month. So I need to carbo load for that now.
That's fun. I do. There's one other question that I just thought of that I wanted to ask you, and I didn't ask before because I know you can handle it. What is the largest event you've ever done? How many people do you know?
About 1,000 people.
Okay. And so that's the thing is like, like when I do events, I bring, if I have a large event, I bring assistants to help me score and everything.
Absolutely.
But there is a size where at that point, it's like, okay, I can't do that size of an event. You really have no limit, I think. Like, I mean, you could do, I mean, at some point maybe, but like with your system, I think like you could, like if they had a stadium full of people, you could probably.
I'd like to try. I mean, we did, I say 1,000 people, but that's our largest in-person event. I think we had a couple virtual events that were as many or more than that. Yeah, we just throw bodies at it. But that's one of the advantages of having a digital system, which all the franchise companies learned that during the pandemic. And that's when they all hopped to it and built their systems. None of them had it before then. And now they have it because they're like, Google Docs isn't going to cut it for us.
Yeah. No.
And I think that's true. So now, they got more bodies than me. So you could do 1,000 people. It takes more planning. Although it's interesting. I don't know if you run into this when clients ask, obviously they want to know about pricing, and they're often expecting pricing to be dependent on the number of people. But as my sales manager says, 10 people versus 50 people is basically the same
work. It's the same game, basically.
Same work. Once you get to a couple hundred, then there's more involved.
Yes.
But you're still making the same presentation, the same number of questions, and then processing the scores is just, it's just the great.
Yeah, there is. I mean, for me, because I'm still pen and paper and I'm not doing digital, there is a factor where if it gets to a certain size, I have to bring somebody in to help me with the scoring and maybe a second person if it's big enough. So there will be added costs for that. But the game itself, you're not getting a lesser product for fewer people. You're getting the same quality product. So you're not really going to get a break, if it's an event for 20 people as opposed to an event for 50 or 100 or 200 people, so
whether or not it makes sense, in the world, we sell ourselves as a team building thing. And if you look at a lot of companies that do team building, especially the companies that have like varieties of team building, you want trivia, we have trivia. You want, paint night, we have paint night. And we partner with some of them as their trivia provider. they almost all do their pricing per person. So we are forced sometimes to come up with a per person pricing model, which we can, but it's just not our preferred way of doing it. Because like we said, it's 10 people, 50 people, 80 people, basically the same.
Yeah. Same show. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to crossing paths with you again.
Absolutely.
And, hopefully playing a big quiz thing sometime in the future, somewhere in some form, because
I will find an opportunity, sir. I will find an opportunity. I am very overdue for a trip to Chicago. My Chicago host, who's been hosting for me about 7 years now, we have never met in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She actually came to San Francisco once for a gig because it was like simultaneous gigs. So I needed someone to come in, and I got COVID that day. So we weren't able to meet, and she had to do both of it.
Nice. Well, she's ever busy, and you need a Chicago. Drop me a line.
Good to know, sir. Good to know.
Do it. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, and thanks for doing this podcast. Because, like you said, I do view it as an art form. I do long for a world in which trivia is taken seriously as something that professionals do. And a podcast like this is overdue. So thanks for making it happen.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, and it feeds my desire to just play as many different formats and styles as I can.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
It's a selfish thing for me in part, but I do like it, and I'm hoping any trivia company out there, if you're listening and you found it without me reaching out to you, reach out to me and I'll have you on. So Thank you very much. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, everybody out there. Happy quizzing. Be well. I still got to figure out the best way to sign this thing off. So I'm just, take care. Be well.
I think happy quizzing is good.
Oh yeah, there you go. Happy quizzing.
Yeah, keep calm and quiz on.
Oh, I like that.
Really? I think it's cheesy.
Keep calm and quiz. I don't know. That may be it. All right, take care. Bye.
Thanks, buddy. Bye.